I just got back in a few minutes ago from helping my parents take a bunch of stuff down from their attic. And by a bunch of stuff, I mean like a house worth of stuff. And so I figured tonight is the night to relax with a little talk. For you, maybe it's the morning. For me, it's night. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. My name is Justin, and today we're listening to Talk with their songs, three songs actually today. The Rainbow, Eden, and Desire. This is off their album The Spirit of Eden, which was released in 1988. So, last time we listened to Talk with The Color of Spring. And from the first song, I knew I had to listen to the rest of the album. I wasn't planning on it before, but it just captured me immediately. You guys had recommended, of course, their follow-up, Spirit of Eden, and you said to do the first three songs together on here, so we're going to do that today. Now, I also know that this album is a pretty big departure, apparently, from their last one, so I'm curious to hear their sound on here. And I've also heard that this is, like, considered perhaps one of the forerunners of post-rock, so that's kind of cool. I think the only post-rock bands that I know of are Sigur Rós, and I think Mogwai is another one. Are Explosions in the Sky considered post-rock? I've heard a little bit of them too. Not a lot though. You are more than welcome to join me on Twitter. Join me in the comments down below. You can support the channel on Patreon if you'd like, but you don't have to for right now. Let's just sit down, relax, and see where the journey takes us. This is Talk with The Rainbow, Eden, and Desire.
Could it be fair? Propelled changed. Oh, where would I have known? Everybody needs someone to live by. Everybody needs someone. Everybody needs someone to live by. town, rivers, but anyway, I'm just content to relax myself. Of my shelter broken, they're not gifted, stolen. But anyway, ain't got a better excuse for myself.
I don't know what to say. Okay, this is when I got to sit here for a second and think about it. This is when I got to process. So much different than Color of Spring. But at the same time, you can see the progression. You can see how they've moved from that sound and came into their own with this sound that they have going on here. And yet, at the same time, it's still Talk Talk. It's still what I heard off of Color of Spring with nice, dense musicianship, nice arrangements. It's interesting. I'm not quite. I haven't quite processed it all yet. I'm still putting it all together. One thing about these three songs is they make great use of space. Absolutely brilliant use of space. As a matter of fact, I would say the spacing in these three songs is more to the forefront than the actual music that's playing. And they use that space so well. The space is used not only to create ambience and atmosphere, but to create tension, to create a want, a fulfillment that we, the listener, wants in the music. This space is meant to give us resolution after big moments. For example, at the end of Desire. The space is used in the production to make certain tones that much more full and noticeable. For example, Mark's hushed delivery throughout so many of these songs, in the silence of space, fills it up to the brim. In the beginning of Rainbow, which is a lot of ambience, I love that. That was awesome. That draws me right in. And I could have actually stayed with that ambience for like several more minutes. But it doesn't stay there. It moves on to the next thing. So another thing about these songs is it feels patient. Nothing is in a hurry to move from one section into the next. None of the songs here feel rushed. Everything feels like it's moving the way that Mark Hollis and Tim Fries-Green wanted it to. Everything's moving with the purpose that they designed it to be moved from. Even with all that space and everything going on, even when there's not a lot going on, still that full sound that they had previously on Color of Spring is used here. But it's much differently put together and rearranged and differently produced, I would say, as well. I can also hear where a lot of the post-rock came from. Because yes, there's a nice balance between the ambient and even getting into more rockier sections. For example, did my master side? No. I'm gonna die. I was trying to move it. If we're talking about the guitar, strictly, just for a moment, which is played by Mark Hollis, but I see that there are some other people playing guitar throughout the album as well. But if you listen to the guitar many times is playing very distorted, even within empty spaces or more quieter moments. But it's very distorted, and I would even say going towards maybe a punk kind of sound. Definitely ramped up in the more exciting moments, but even in the quieter ones. And I just think that that is such an interesting, not contradiction, but balance between the heavy and the light. Somehow, to me, these songs still sound heavy. They don't sound light to me. I don't feel like I'm floating listening to these. I feel like, if anything, I'm in the ground listening to these. I think, personally, it's because of Mark Hollis, specifically with his singing. His singing, not literally, but, tonally, brings me down to earth. He's speaking from the human experience. He's speaking from our point of view, from his point of view, from a world point of view, from a human point of view. Somehow his words and his delivery touches on everything that makes us who we are. And while I'll have to look into the lyrics, I would imagine that they would probably further my points. Sometimes he's very hushed and quiet. Sometimes he's barely audible. Sometimes you can't even make out what he's saying. It sounds like we're underwater and we're listening to someone talk to us above water. Not even yell at us, just talk to us, like in normal speaking voice. But at other times, there's a certain kind of boiling intensity that he brings as the music rises, as he rises. And it's the kind of intensity that's very raw, is very natural, is very human. Coming back to the rainbow, a small thing, but I think it's really cool how here they use the rain sound effects, because a rainbow comes after the rain. So I think that's just a little cool detail to kind of give us a little picture in our heads before moving on. The use of different instruments among this ambience is also something that I personally really like. Hey, it's a mid-song recommendation, but I'm gonna do it. let me recommend to you guys one of my personal favorite songs. I'm sure I've recommended it at some point in the past, but if you enjoy ambience like this, I really think that you would enjoy this song, which personally I think is one of the most beautiful I've ever heard. The song is called Drugged. It's by Bass Communion, which is Steven Wilson, one of his side projects. Turn down the lights, give yourself some time, and listen to the ambience of that song. It's so beautifully built up. There's some really beautiful moments that I don't think would be expected, but when they happen, I mean, they are just illuminating. But the first 2 minutes of Rainbow are really just kind of ambient settlement, because it really settles you into a certain mood. About 2:20, the guitar comes in, and now we get something just a little bit different, and eventually more instruments are added. But once again, it's about the silence between the notes. It's about the space between the rhythm. That's what builds the tension. You know it's coming, you just don't quite know when or how. This was really cool. At first I thought that was a harmonica, but looking at the instruments list here, I'm taking a guess because I looked at a picture of it. I'm guessing that this is Mark Hollis on the Variophone, which I hadn't heard of before. I know that he's used it before, but I never looked at it really too much. But just reading the description, a Variophone is an electronic wind instrument. It synthesizes sounds using the principle of most common brass instruments, creating sounds based on the vibration of the player's lips and breath. So I'm just assuming that that is the Variophone, sounding like a harmonica in some ways, but a little more full. And the drums throughout all three of the songs, actually, the percussion as a whole, is so sublime. Very subtle in its approach, as it should be. But in its simplicity also lies its beauty. I love this shift right here. Listen. I think this is so beautiful. Guys. And the bass, you hear in the back, just echoing. His vocals echoing along with it, and the space. Guys, this whole, I can't say album, but these songs are just experiments in sound, in space, in room. And then listen for it to come back in. Yeah. And there's a very distinct kind of jazziness as well to the actual approach to the structure and arrangement of the song. I'm not sure what it is. Just hits a jazz note on my mind. And that shift that I mentioned before happens a few more times in this song, and each time it shifts, I get goosebumps. There's something about, I don't know, the way they turn the knob on the music and just change it from one thing to another. Eden rises up from the ashes of the rainbow with that drum, guitar, everything's pushing it along. Where's our release? Where are we going? On a first listen, you don't know. It's holding you. You're tense. You know it's coming. But we'll just build up. Hold on. Interesting guitar change. And that. When you hear that, along with that bass, oh my gosh, the bass filling in the space there, which is by Paul Webb. I love his bass playing throughout here. You even get some stand-up bass, I believe, later on. But guys, for example, in that moment that I just played, what do you feel? Do you feel the tension and the release that I do? Or do you feel something else? I would love to know. It's a discussion. I want to know what you guys are feeling when you're listening to the music. Because I can't quite place myself when I'm listening to any of this, but I feel like I'm on Earth, but I'm discovering something not found on the Earth. I don't even know what that means. If you're listening to this with some good headphones or a great sound system, you're going to get so much out of this. I feel like if you're just listening to this in the dark, you're going to drift. You're going to come to attention. This music is just, it's cerebral without being too thoughtful. It's not taking over your mind. It's just occupying the spaces between your thoughts even. I don't know. I'm becoming really abstract listening to this. And see how this sound is somewhat reminiscent of Color of Spring, but it's not. There is something different about it. I don't know. Maybe it's because of all the spacing and ambience that's been led into before. And I love this build-up. This is such a good build-up. Especially the way they end the build-up. Hold on, let's listen to how they build it up and eventually break it down. Because this is not something that I was expecting, especially on the first listen, which I don't expect much. But, you know. The balloon, the bubbles expanding with that guitar. And it pops and we're in paradise. Along with just the actual dimensions of the music, as I mentioned, specifically with Hollis's tone in his voice going from hushed to intense, the music does the exact same thing in moments exactly like that. It is constantly changing, even if we don't exactly realize it at the time. But by the time we do realize it, it's moved on, but not without taking its time in the things we were left at before. And then the ending of Eden has some really interesting production. It's like fading in and out, kind of strangely here. It's actually really psychedelic, to be honest. Coming into Desire, we're once again thrown into the darkness. Oh, what a beautiful darkness it is, though. As we're just left to dwell in mood. Before later on, it really picks up completely different from this. But I really like this type of mood. You know, I don't know if, I mean, you guys are probably familiar, but a long time ago, I had bought a random soundtrack. It was the soundtrack to Taxi Driver, which I believe was made by Bernard Herrmann? I could look it up, but I'm not going to. But it was the soundtrack to Taxi Driver, and I love that soundtrack because it was just moody jazz that kind of like this just allowed a lot of space. It was perfect for like a drive in the rain through the city. I guess kind of like Taxi Driver. But the music here kind of reminds me of that. It's moody jazz. It's moody ambience. There is definitely some rock going on, especially later on in this song. So they're still taking their art rock influences from the past and putting it into this, but creating something different. In a sense, and I guess as you guys have mentioned, post-rock. You know, it feels like after rock. And even as we move into the build-up here, comes in a really interesting note here as well, with the snare and the drums. But even before that happens, there's a certain type of deep, resounding mood that's vibrating beneath the surface of the music. That's the pressure that they're holding before releasing it in moments like that. And all of that pressure is also space. Like, it's so weird. Everything is kind of just meticulously in a certain place. It's like everything knows where it's supposed to be. I guess that's positioning in the music so that everything is set off and all the neurons are firing exactly when they need to. And yet at the same time, it's also the times when the neurons are not firing that are just as important. And there was a quote that you guys had been quoting from Mark Hollis, and I looked it up really quick because I couldn't remember the whole thing, but I think it perfectly encapsulates what at least these three songs are about, and I think it's so important to understand. He says, before you play two notes, learn how to play one note. And don't play one note unless you've got a reason to play it. That is so profound to me. I think especially the last part. You have a reason to play it. And that's kind of what I'm getting at listening to these songs, is that everything in here has a reason to be here.
That's brilliant.
It looks like a lot of the music was recorded like in the dark, pretty much. It says that the sessions took place in a blacked out studio with an oil projector and strobe lighting. Engineer Phil Brown said that the album, along with its successor, were recorded by chance, accident, and hours of trying every possible overdub idea. Not idea. 12 hours a day in the dark listening to the same 6 songs for 8 months became pretty intense. That is actually really, really intense. There was very little communication with musicians who came into play. They were led to a studio in darkness, and a track would be played down with the headphones. That is so interesting. I love that, though. I love the idea of them all just coming in, being in the dark, and seeing what pops out of that feeling. That's interesting because there is a light in the darkness. I actually almost forgot to talk about the lyrics on these. So, the rainbow. Oh yeah, the world's turned upside down. Jimmy Finn is out. Well, how can that be fair at all? I don't know who Jimmy Finn is, but how can that be fair at all? Apparently, he's not someone that should be out. I would imagine out of prison. Lenient. The song the lawyer sang, Our Nation's Wrong. Well, how can that be fair at all? Repented, changed, aware where I have wronged. Unfound, corrupt, this song the jailer sings, my time has run. Sound the victim's song, the trial is gone, the trial is gone, sound the victim's song. So it looks like we're kind of getting different perspectives on this person, on this prisoner. The lawyer, he said, lenience, the nation's wrong. And then the actual prisoner himself, Mr. Finn, says, well, how can that be fair at all? Repented, changed, aware where I have wronged. Like he's aware he made mistakes, but he's repented, he's changed his ways, and now he's good to go. The jailer says, unfound, corrupt, my time has run. And then overall it says to sound the victim's song, the trial is gone, the trial goes on. So let me look up really quick who Jimmy Finn is, if that's an actual person. Jimmy Finn is an Irish retired hurler for the Tipperary senior team. I have a feeling that he's not who the song's about. I don't know. I feel like the song is more talking about a criminal of some sort, but I don't know. The second song, Eden, summer blood of Eden, Easter's heir uncrowns. Another destiny lies leached upon the ground. Everybody needs someone to live by. Everybody will need someone. That repeats on, and then rage on omnipotent. A gilded wreath on reason, the flower crushes conceives. A child of fragrance so much clearer in legacy. And then that chorus repeats, everybody needs someone to live by, everyone, or everybody will need someone. Summer blood of Eden. Okay, Eden, summer blood. I'd imagine this is coming back or referring to the first sin, Adam and Eve. Like Eden was bleeding, so the summer, that season, which is a beautiful season of growth, was bleeding. Easter's heir uncrowns. So Easter, Jesus, uncrowns, he lost his crown. Another destiny lies leached. People are taking his destiny upon the ground. Like, we're kind of like holding on. We're kind of like leeching off of Jesus' death. Something like that. Everybody needs someone to live by. Everyone needs someone to find hope or guidance in. Everyone will need someone. Rage on omnipotence. The flower crushed conceives. So even though the flower was crushed, it's still able to conceive. It's still able to bring a new life into the world, a seed. A child of fragrance, so much clearer in legacy. I feel like the song is about Jesus. That's what I'm getting from it. That's what I'm getting. Kind of like, I guess, like Adam messed up basically in the first verse, and he was, I guess, the flower that was crushed, but that flower conceived a child of fragrance so much clearer. Like Jesus is there to wipe away all the sins and stuff like that, right? That's what I'm getting, at least. And then the last song here, Desire. Desire whispered, spoken in time, rivers, oceans. That ain't me, babe. That ain't me, babe. That ain't me, babe. I'm just content to relax, then drown within myself. Interesting. I like that. That last line I think is really telling. I'm just content to relax, then drown within myself. He's not swallowed up by desire, as he said in the first verse. Desire whispered, spoken in time, rivers, oceans. He's not worried about all that. He says he's content to just relax. He's not of want for anything. Of mind, sheltered, broken, denied, gifted, stolen. That ain't me, that ain't me, that ain't me. Ain't got a bed of excuse for myself. This one's got me a little bit. Call me a cut down tree because I'm stumped on this one. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought of the songs, of course, but I would also like to know what you guys thought of the lyrics. Maybe you can help me out. Because the last one, Desire, I kind of got it, but I don't 100% get it. I think I'm pretty close on Eden, though, and Rainbow. Who knows? Join me on Twitter. Join me in the comments down below. Hope you're having an absolutely beautiful day. And I will talk to you tomorrow, guys. Bye.